Nandan, let me start with you just because we were just having a conversation, and I know, Tarman has talked about many aspects of this challenge. If we look at somewhere like India, obviously a lot of growth is happening, has happened, but this challenge is probably more evident there than it is in any other country of combining economic success with the jobs, with the technological change. So what do you think are the critical things for that?
No, I think just as we are confronting the impact of AI, which is a technology which will impact jobs, I think we also have to think about what is the technology that will enable systematic creation of jobs and systematic creation of entrepreneurs. So there are two things which I can talk about which we've actually done. One is, how do you create structured opportunity for 1 billion people? And for example, today in India, somebody gets an ID. With that ID, they get a bank account. They get a mobile connection. They can start a small vegetable vending location, borrowing some money. They can start taking digital payments for what they sell using UPI. That data can now be used to get a loan to grow the business. So this is a structured way of creating an escalator of opportunity. And you do that for 1 billion people, then you're actually creating pathways for people to both become entrepreneurs and maybe tomorrow create more jobs. So that's one way of doing it. The second thing is, how do we aggregate small producers virtually using digital networks, open networks? For example, how do you take a lot of retailers and make them into a bigger force, give them access to credit systematically, market systematically, and so on? So I think these two ideas are very specific. They use technology. At scale, they can make a big difference. And that's really how we should think about using technology to deal with the implications of AI and things like that.
Time on the jobs challenge, and you discussed it at the beginning. I mean, I have to admit, when we first had a sort of prep call for this session, I thought it was slightly odd to be focused on the jobs rather than the growth, because we're so used to thinking about if you support a successful rapid economic development and rapid growth, then you worry about the jobs after. What is it that we'll have to do differently to make this growth of the future more job creating?
I think growth's a necessary condition, but not a sufficient condition for job generation. That's the big insight that's coming out with this technology kind of revolution. That's why, yes, we need growth to get jobs, but growth alone will not do it. Let me just go back to what all four of them have said for a second for you. I went through this very quickly in the opening, but when I said infrastructure, I sort of very quickly said physical and human capital. And in physical, I said bridges, roads, airports, power, digital, it's all there. What Nandan talked about, digital public infrastructure, is one of the critical infrastructures in enablement. But electricity is even more basic. So let's talk Africa, where Wale is from. Africa has 600 million people without electricity. I'm not talking brownouts. I'm talking no electricity. So when you fly over Africa at night, you think it's not populated. That is not true. People are living the way their great-grandfathers lived. That cannot be right in the 21st century. It is a travesty to think that electricity is not a basic human right. So if you want to build a digital public infrastructure, try doing that without electricity. How do you plan to charge your phone? A connection to the sun with your finger? And this is not going to work. So a very basic commitment is electrification. Sure. So we've talked about getting to 300 million people by 2030 with electrification. And I'm not talking about one solar cell with one fan and one light in the house. That's not productive. I'm talking about the ability to have a computer, the ability as a chemist to have a fridge for your medicines, the ability to open a hair salon, the ability to do those kinds of things. Right? So that's kind of one thing there in infrastructure. Bridges, roads, airports, everyone understands. Digital and power tends to get ignored a little. In the world of AI, power is going to become even more important because, as we all know, the consumption of electricity currently in the current models of AI is very large. Now, it'll improve over time because they're busy trying to figure out ways. People like Nandan. Nandan is an amazing technologist. People like him are caring about reducing the consumption of electricity per quantum output of AI. But today, it's a real issue. Human capital, I don't mean only college, and the point raised about dignity. Let me give you a real example. The jobs of the future that will not get impacted by large language models of AI, even in the developed world, actually require hand to be used. Nursing care, long-term care, physical trainer, dog walker. Come to Manhattan and see it. You can meet people walking 6 dogs at a time. It's a gig thing they run. They make $5,000 a month on dog walking. Now, we taught our children that STEM education was their future. I would argue that the first place that the impact in the developed world of really good work on AI will be in STEM jobs. Nandan and I are familiar with the banking industry. He from his Infosys days, me from being a recovering banker. And this kind of banking is different. I'm talking about recovering banker. And if you had 15,000 people in audit and compliance and risk, with AI, you need a fraction of those. So I think these are challenges of different types in the developed world and the developing world. And I'm not trying to make one size fit all, but I am trying to make the case that in the developing world, we still have a chance by focusing on those 3 pillars of infrastructure, the right business-friendly policies, and the right catalytic capital, combined with those 5 sectors. We have a chance to allow the next 15 years to be good years for people in these countries. Through DPIs and platforms, through the right kind of jobs, we do have a chance. And we should not let the fear of technology make us think that this is not an opportunity that exists within our grasp.
Nandan, briefly.
Yeah, no, I just want to add something which both President Thurman talked about, that new energy will create jobs, and the electricity thing. I think one way to think about it is, can we create millions of energy micro-entrepreneurs? Because if people are going to invest in having that rooftop solar, battery, and all that, they can use it for themselves today.
Under the grid.
They can sell it to the grid. But we can now do peer-to-peer trading. So if I can sell power to my neighbor, or if I'm a farmer with a system can sell to a shopkeeper, energy trading in micro amounts at variable price will be much bigger than any other market.
So just build on this for a second. In Nigeria, we're doing distributed solar energy. That's how we're going to reach large numbers of people in his country for power. That, when you're putting up that distributed solar energy plant, if you plant a cell phone tower at the same time, if I reach 25 million people in Nigeria with power, I now reach 25 million people with the internet. Now Nandan's idea becomes real. You see what I mean? And when we're talking about reaching small farmers with open platforms, this is out of a real experience in a number of countries, but started out in Uttar Pradesh in India, where we took a platform that Google has built for us. And it's an open platform where you connect farmers and cooperatives on this side, and you connect here fertilizer, insecticide, crop insurance, better water practices, better seed practices, people. And I, even as an illiterate farmer, with very simple language, can learn how to get scale, which I don't get otherwise. That's the kind of stuff that
I want to get it to the social infrastructure that goes with all the things that you've talked about, because if you think about the kind of jobs that you've described, in many countries now, they are the least well-paid, the least valued, the least secure. Possibly the dog walkers in parts. The dog walkers that you see in Central Park, perhaps not.
I don't want to divert you. I was talking about the developed world. What I'm really focused on is jobs in the developing world. I'm not creating low-paying jobs in the developing world.
Yes, no, I get that, but I think it's still an equivalent thing that we have to think about what is the social contract that goes with these.
We're talking about creating jobs in infrastructure, in healthcare, in power, in skilling, in tourism, in agriculture. These are as good jobs as any other. Don't get me wrong, we are not talking about creating poor quality jobs. We're talking about creating excellent quality jobs. I was giving you that example in a different context where you talked about the dignity of labor and the dignity of jobs. And I said, in the developed world, in response to that, you will find some of the jobs that will stay unimpacted by AI may actually be jobs that in the past we thought were not high quality. Right. That's the developed world. But I'm a developing world focused guy. I don't belong.
But isn't that